It's Ozzy at your sim, and today I'm going to be showing you a tutorial on how to use the EFB, which is also known as the electronic flight bag. So I'm going to go through the flight performance pages, the checklist, the flight plan, how to set up departure procedures, how to set up arrival procedures, and a walkthrough of how to get the weather and how to view the charts on this EFB. Right, now the first thing we want to do, I'll go to start from the top of these icons here, right? So we've got the flight plan. We want to load the flight plan in, and we do this, can either do this two ways. We can set it up here. For example, want to take off from Luton Airport, EGGW, and arrive in EHAM. This is like a standard flight for me. I normally do in an Airbus, but today we're in a Cessna. I'm just going to show you for the purposes of this tutorial. So we click the EFB button here. It's populated the EFB already by what we've typed there, or we can click reset up here. All right. Now, if we want to select what runways we're taking off from, I will pick runway 07, and it will change accordingly on the world map also. Now, to add a departure, so we've got a list of departures here, and they're also known as standard instrument departures. So used in real life, and there's altitude constraints and speed constraints, that basically restrictions that you have to keep within for that particular airport or area to keep the flights safely running around in that airport. So I'm going to select map 2 Charlie departure. Now we've got the map here that will show you if this departure is actually suitable. So over here we've got the runway that we're departing from, 07. We can see the direction that the departure is going, right? And if we click change procedure, this line from the runway is now going to join on to the end of our departure procedure. So that waypoint is matched. So once we change this and we go back to the change procedure map, we can see it's connected it along here now. Right, so we've got our departure in map 2 Charlie. Now we want to also click our arrival, which is standard terminal arrival procedure, which is also known as a star. So you got your SID here, you got your star here. That's how we do it. So I want to select the runway we want to land on, 18 center. That's what the C stands for. And ski pole. So let's add an arrival. So at the moment, we got us coming in from here to here, and I want to do the red for 1 arrival. So here we go, red for 1 alpha arrival. We click that, and what it will do from Redfar, it will change from Redfar to Sugol. That's the arrival, and then it will join up to here from Sugol to Sydney. So change procedure, and let's check that again if it did it. Change procedure. Look, there we go. Everything's looking good. Right, we click back. Now, once we have chose our flight plan, we will click file flight plan with the ATC. So our ATC that we're using knows when to tell us to go where and what frequency to change to, blah, blah, blah. We click file flight plan with ATC and then send route to avionics. So we want it to send the route to the aircraft avionics. Right, so when we're in the G1000, our route will be loaded there and we don't have to program it in ourselves. It will be so much more of a time changer. Okay, so we've got our flight details page here. Now, normally this would be an IFR flight plan because we're using SIDs and stars, right? So we're going to click IFR, but if you just want to do sightseeing and then just have a basic straight line flight plan, you would click VFR. But because we're doing SIDs and stars, standard instruments departures, and standard terminal arrival procedures, we're going to click IFR. We can enter the reg here if we want to. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to go over that. We've got the airlines we're using. For example, we've got EasyJet here. We can put in our flight number here and have our call signs. We've got our date here. We've got our builder. No transponder. We normally have a mode C transponder in the Cessna. So it tells the air traffic controllers our altitude and what code we're squawking, which is what squawk is. So if they can't find you, they'll tell you to type a number and press ident, and then it'll bleep on their screen. Payload options, so our 0 fuel weight, total payload, how many passengers have we got. We're in a Cessna, It has calculated the pilots included, which is me and another pilot, but we've got no passengers, no cargo we're carrying. We've got our block fuel and our takeoff weight. Everything's all calculated for you by the EFB. We also got our tax. Here we go. We've got our block fuel and alternate fuel calculated for us here. So if we want to add more taxi fuel, if we estimate a long taxi, if we're in Amsterdam, you can be taxiing for like half an hour. So if you want to add more taxi fuel to it, you can. If you want to have some reserve fuel, we can add that in here, or contingency fuel if we're experiencing or expecting bad weather that will keep us holding. We can also add that in. We have the navigation log in this icon here. So normally, while I was doing my PPL, you would have a table where you'd fill all of these, write all of these in manually, and you'll draw a line on an actual map, and you'll calculate the heading and the distance in nautical miles, and then you'll say how long each sector would be. And then once you get to fly the plane, you'll click the stopwatch start and stop here, and then you'll fill it in once you arrive to each waypoint. So it's good that the EFB has this incorporated in there. So if those of you who want to practice PPL flying, that's perfect. So the next step, we have clip charts. It shows you what charts will be needed for this flight, or we can save them to the save chart section. What we'll do, another way of going through this, is going to the flight plan page, clicking the information section. Then you've got general, tells you the elevation of your airport, how high it is above sea level, all this information. You've got weather here. You've got it written in META and TAF, and it's decoded for you here if you don't understand how to read METAs and TAFs, which the average normal person that's getting into Flight Simulator won't. Only if you've studied the exams for becoming a pilot, you would know how to decode these in your mind. I can just look at this and know what the weather's like, pretty much. I like a basic understanding of it. We've got the runways here. So it tells you what runway is recommended to depart from, because the wind is more suitable for runway 25. Even though I had 07, it tells you your ILS frequencies and what to tune in. I'll touch on that in a second. And you've got your radio communication frequencies, such as the ATIS, which tells you the weather. You've got your clearances, ground tower. We click charts here, and we've got a few different sections of the flights of where we can have the charts for. So for departures, we've got our standard instrument departure charts here. We've got our start with standard terminal arrival charts here, approach charts here for our ILS or RNAV approaches. So we're taking off from, what do we have in our flight plan? Runway 07. Okay, so we'll go back to our charts, choose runway 07, SIDS, and we'll click that. We've got our match to Charlie departure here. So we are departing from runway 07, and we're climbing to our initial climb of 4,000 feet here. And then our next waypoints will give us different altitude constraints. So that's what I meant before when I said constraints. These are all restrictions of how high we can go up to. We can't go any higher unless given by air traffic control to do so. Otherwise we'll get a massive fine and a massive email and a meeting about it. Alright, so we spoke about our SIDS. Now we want to speak about our arrivals. So we chose the Redfart 1 arrival. Alright, now if we want to choose the arrival for Amsterdam, so I go to information, I clicked our flight plan, right, and I click the I here, and now we change to Amsterdam here. So now we can check our approach when I click the charts for arrivals for Amsterdam. So we know we said on the flight plan we're going to do 18 center. So we click 18 center here, and we've got RNAV and stars here. So that will be our Redfart 1 arrival. And here we go, wait for it to load, and we zoom in. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click settings, and I'm going to make this large for this tutorial. I should have done this from the beginning, but I've just remembered there was this feature. So from Sugol, we're going to 18 center. So from Redfart 1, we're going to Sugol, and then from Sugol, we're going to the waypoint, it was Disney up here. So our main arrival is focusing on we want to be at flight level 230. So we don't want to be higher than 23,000 feet at Redfart. And then we want to be in between 10,000 feet and 7,000. It's all in flight level, so basically add on 2 zeros to get the actual 1,000 feet in altitude. And also we want to be no more than 250 knots, obviously, because once you're below 10,000 feet, you cannot go faster than 250 knots. It's a speed restriction pretty much everywhere in the world. Right, next is the approach. So we want to choose 18 Charlie, and this is where it comes to ILS. Now, the difference between ILS and RNP and RNAV, I'll explain that to you. So RNP and RNAV are actually pretty much the same thing. This is just showing you a nighttime approach because there's a different procedure for night. ILS stands for Instrument Landing System, which uses a localizer on the ground. So where it says ILS or LOC, it sends a beam. It's basically, imagine a glide slope, a beam diagonally from the runway to pointing up the sky, usually at 3 degrees, right? I can explain that from getting a chart open here. Now, this is what I mean by the beam. So this beam, yeah, which is at 3 degrees as it shows here, and it tells you at what waypoint with Sydney, which we spoke about before, we have to be between 3000 and 2000. Usually air traffic control will tell you where to be at to intercept the localizer. If you're above this localizer, you will not catch the signal and it will not direct the plane downwards, or it won't give you the signals to direct you downwards, right? So we want to be either at or below this altitude here to intercept the localizer frequency. As we've intercepted that line, we will start receiving signals from the localizer, and if we have auto land on, it will tell the plane it'll basically guide the plane down itself, right? Now, the difference between ILS and RNP approach. RNP stands for Required Navigational Non-Precision Approach. ILS approaches are all precision approaches. They're the most accurate compared to the others. The reason being, RNP uses GPS. So you're using GPS data that may not always be accurate depending on the satellite activity. And there may be discrepancies or interferences between that signal. So that's the reason why the charts will be different. So you don't have a glide slope here because of that specific reason. So you can use this on a clear day. It will still give you, your flight director in the plane will still tell you pretty much how to get down, but you want to be, if you want the most accurate and up-to-date one, you would use ILS. I always prefer ILS over RNAV RNP approaches. Okay. Now let me go back to ILS quickly and speak to you about the frequency. So all the frequency information is here. So you got ILS 18 center, and then you've got the identifier, which is ZWA. So once you're tuning that into your nav comms, you will type the frequency 109.5, and once you've tuned that, you will get 3 letters, and those 3 letters should be the same as this. You can also see the Morse code here, dash dash dot 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 dash dash dot dash. You can choose to listen into that, and if it sounds like this, then you know you have the right identifier. If you can't see the identifier for whatever reason, you have to do all this stuff in getting a PPL and commercial pilot license. These are like what you're examined on. So you tune that and show your examiner, yeah, nah, I can hear it, blah blah blah. Right, so now we have the approach, ILS approach chart up. I'm basically touching through what I would have explained to you in a tutorial, but I'll basically do it really quick. So you've got your Sydney waypoint. This is where the localizer is. You've got your outer marker, inner marker, and then you've got your waypoint once you should have been established on the localizer. If you're not established on the localizer, you have to carry out a missed approach. If you're going to try and fight your way down and catch it, you're not flying safe. And there's also speed restrictions here. It says at 160 knots if you're in an airliner. Obviously a Cessna's not going to be able to do it. So yeah. So I'm going to explain to you what MDA is as minimum decision height. So that's whether you're going to continue your approach. If you can't see the runway, you cannot continue your approach if you've reached the minimum decision altitude. So here we've got RA is radio altimeter 102 feet. So by 102 feet above the ground, because your radio altimeter is constantly scanning the ground, and if at 102 feet you do not see the runway, for example, if it's so foggy, you cannot land, you'd have to go around. So at that height is where you need to make a decision to continue or to abort the approach. On the chart it should be DH for decision height. For some reason on the Lido chart it's only showing you radio altimeter, unless I've missed something here. I haven't got my glasses on, to be honest, but on Navigraph it will show you DH for decision height if you're using the barometer and not radio altimeter. Next we have our airport diagram. So once we have landed and we want to know how to park to our stand, we will go to our airport parking chart here. It should show us if we get it up on the map, and when it loads, it's only showing that section of the airport. Hold on, we want to have pretty much the whole. There we go, we've got the whole airport here. So 18 center would be here, and obviously it will show where our plane is once we're there, and we'll be able to figure out what taxiways to take. For example, Delta, Bravo, depends on what gate we are allocated. Okay, that's pretty much an overview of how to use the EFB. There's one thing I want to touch on here, the cruise altitude. This is set in flight level. So if you want to set it to feet, so basically it's added 2 zeros on here. Remember, if you want to convert flight level into feet, just add on the 2 zeros and that will tell you what it is. So flight level 100 is 10,000 feet. All right, but by default it'll be set to flight level. Remember, it's important to click File Flight Plan with ATC and send the route to avionics, okay? And then we'll load in the plane and I will show you it loaded into the avionics and what you're basically looking for. So here we go. We've got it all. Our departure procedure is all been updated. Our arrival from Redford to Sugo is up here. And then to Sydney, everything is done. How we're gonna start the flight. Right, if you also don't want to go to the side to keep looking at your EFB, you can get it up using the toolbar above you. If you don't want it as big as I did, you can change it back to small. It was a bit too big now. Right, so one thing I didn't touch up on is the checklist. So if we're starting cold and dark, the plane switched off, and we want to know how to start up everything for takeoff and where to inspect, we need to do this checklist. So starting the engine, we click on the checklist here, how to start the engine. If we click this eye, it will show us exactly where to look at, right? And it should tell us where it's pointing, and it will flash in blue. So the fuel pump here, there. And then we just go and press tick, and then we'll go to next step. Mixture, where's the mixture? Here we go. We're clicking I, and it's going to show us where that is, right? Everything is loaded. Our flight plan is loaded into our PFD and MFD in our Cessna. Now let me zoom out to see if our departure procedure. There we are. Everything is up to date. However, we can go to our EFB and then we can click our charts. Now we want to go to, remember, yeah, we click information because we're departed from Luton. Then we click the charts, and then we'll click departure procedure, and SIDS will get that open. And there we are, and here is our plane exactly where it should be on the departure, so we can follow that match to Charlie route, which is this line here. Okay, so we can follow it on our avionics and on our EFB. Okay, if you liked the video, press like and subscribe. If you want to do this in an Airbus, I have an Airbus tutorial on the InnyBuilds V2. So if you want to follow me programming everything into the Airbus's MCDU, which is the flight management system, and how to put the route in there and how to set up the departures and arrival and tune your ILS and everything, I will tell you, start from the first video on the playlist, follow me through it in each video. If there's another video request that you get, please let me know in the comments and tell me how you found this video. Thank you very much. See ya!